welcome to the HR Exchange podcast. My name is David Rice. I am your host and the editor of the HR Exchange Network. On today's show, we're going to be taking a deeper look at some of the things we learned in our recent State of HR survey, with insights from Rhonda Hall. She's the Vice President of HR and Organizational Development at University Federal Credit Union in Central Texas. We're going to be chatting about lessons learned in 2020 and what comes next for UFCU, a company that has proudly branded itself as a people-first culture. Before we dive right in, though, I want to thank all of you for joining us and wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving. As we film this, it is the day before Thanksgiving. So I appreciate all of you joining us, and I really hope that you enjoy your holiday. If you're enjoying these shows, I would ask that you subscribe to us on whatever podcast hosting platform you enjoy your typical podcasts on, whether that's Apple, Google, Spotify. If you're a YouTuber, please drop a like on the video or subscribe to the channel to get all of this content right into your YouTube feed. And as always, I would like to remind everyone that you can sign up for our newsletter. You can get weekly updates on all the stuff that we're doing at the HR Exchange Network, whether that's online events, new white papers we're putting out, market reports, or more shows like this, articles on the website. You can get it all straight into your inbox. So please do go to HR Exchange Network and sign up for the newsletter. We really appreciate that. So with all that said, it's a bit of a tired cliche at this point to say that 2020 has been a challenging and exhausting year for HR professionals. But the truth is, it has been, because 2020 has really been an exhausting year to be a human being. And if your job, like HR's, is people-centered and reliant on keeping people focused on and engaged on a task at hand, it's been even tougher than usual in 2020. So when we sat down to craft our annual State of HR survey, we really had to keep that in mind. And you might remember that I briefly mentioned the survey on the last episode with Christopher Lind. The annual survey is used to fuel our annual State of HR report, which will come out in early December. So I want to remind everyone you can keep an eye on the website for that. It should be appearing in the weeks to come. And it really digs into some of the bigger issues that HR is coping with right now, and how HR as a department is going to have to really lead the organization in how it deals with those issues going forward. In my conversation with HR leaders, though, around this topic, it didn't matter what lens you viewed 2020 through, really. The one thing that was always in focus was the people. And the interview I'm about to play for you, I think, really embodied that more than anything else. And so I really hope that you enjoy this interview with Rhonda Hall. So, it's been a crazy year for HR, and one of the things that we wanted to do with the survey was get a better idea of what HR leaders' biggest challenges were over the course of the year, and we got a lot of different responses. So I was kind of curious, what would you say your biggest challenge was as 2020 really became more and more unpredictable?
Burnout of staff. Single biggest challenge we had. And that's of human resources staff as well as our member facing or customer facing staff, and managing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's been a tough thing, like just the amount. I don't know what it was that naturally caused us to start working more hours, but I guess just because, I don't have to drive home. But I find myself going, it's been 9 hours. Like, why didn't I didn't really take a lunch. I just went and got some food and came back. So like, what changed, in our mentality it's been
Yeah.
a journey.
For David, for us, I think that from an HR perspective, it's that HR has been in the hub. We've been in the center of all of the decisions that are being made to accommodate, and every business decision because I work for a people first cultured organization, we're at the table for literally every decision. And the first question we ask before we decide to make any changes is, what's going to be the impact on our employees? And so focusing on that and having to drive, as we are making so many service changes to focus on our members and our customers, um, starting with what's the impact on the employees, it's just added a layer of complexity of keeping up with what all those changes have been. But it's been worth it. So,
Yeah, it's been a big growth opportunity, I imagine, and like in terms of changes that were bound to happen eventually,
mhm,
kind of went through some of the pains this year and found out we can survive it. So,
yeah. I'm grateful I didn't have some of the challenges that many of my peers had, that we are actually, some of my peers have had a culture of scarcity that they've had to live in, and an environment of scarcity where they're having to, do these incredible reorganization structures and layoffs. And our biggest, not biggest, but our challenge has been hiring. We've actually grown during the COVID crisis, partly because we're accommodating our employees that are working from home, but we still physically need people to stand in a financial center and take care of a member that needs to walk in a door. So we've been hiring during that. So I'm grateful that I haven't had the same challenges the vast majority of my HR peers have
yeah. So I wanted to, one of the things we asked was for people to kind of fill in the blank on the survey. And I wanted to ask you to finish this sentence for me.
had. Okay.
The biggest consequence of the pandemic for HR has been what?
Oh, wow. What a great question. The biggest consequence for human resources has been the toll on the people, the emotional toll on the people. And when I mean the people, to me, I'm talking about both your HR colleagues who have been on the receiving end of every employee's anxiety and on the anxiety of every employee. So, back, and it's been in waves, back in the February, March timeframe, there was anxiety around the virus and the unknown, and absorbing and listening to employees and educating on, well, if you do these things, you should be safe. And then it went to, okay, well, oh my gosh, my kids came home. Now what? So the anxiety of parents trying to juggle the full-time work, and then now the kids didn't go back after spring break. So what do I do now? I have this, third grader or first grader or 5 children, or whatever it is. So then there was that anxiety. And then there was anxiety of summer. Oh my gosh, summer camps all canceled. What do I do if I have kids? And then also by then, employees were saying, okay, I'm seeing spikes come up. I'm less comfortable. What are you doing to protect me if I'm continuing to come into work every day? And then as we moved into the next school year, anxiety amped up again because people said, look, when I took this over in March and I knew the end of the school year was just, 60, 70 days away, and I figured I could muscle through it. But now I'm coming in August and I don't know when my kid's going to go back to school. And I don't know how long I can do this. Like, I was exhausted then. I just don't know how I can do this. So then you had that anxiety going up. And then people are now been home for 8 or 9 months and they're saying, am I needed? Is my job still secure? They're seeing everyone else around them getting laid off. Or am I safe? Am I secure? What's this going to mean to me and my family? My spouse got laid off. My significant other, my partner got laid off. And then now coming into the holidays, it's the anxiety of, I can't do my norm, my routine, what makes me comfortable, my family. It's David, and all of that falls in the human resource department. Every single one of those falls on HR people. Falls
Yeah.
on the leaders as well, the really good leaders who are staying in tune with their folks. But that's the biggest consequence for human resources to me, is that human toll on the emotional state of our HR folks.
Yeah, it's interesting. My wife watches Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and I was
Uh-huh.
watching it for a little bit last night, and it was this part where the pandemic is first starting out, and no one knows, anything. And I got to thinking about it. I said to her, I was like, it's funny watching people from back that at that time, their reactions and their thought processes, because I can remember what we were thinking and what we were
Yeah.
saying, and I was like, I just feel like we've been on such a journey, like for 9 months, and we're like completely different people at this point. I was
Right.
like, certainly from like how we view it and like an emotional standpoint, how you deal with it. But
Mhm.
that has a ripple effect on everything that you do, in how you view your work and how you approach your day, everything. So
Yeah.
it's interesting because yeah, like you said, they're human beings. They're going to change, their relationships to things change. So it's fascinating to see that the impact that this has had on it. And like you said, HR has sort of got that front row seat.
HR has a front row seat, and in many ways, HR is the tip of the spear right now. At least, again, in my organization, we've been asked, so where should we go? What should we do? What's your guidance? What should we be thinking about? We're not an afterthought at all. We are right at the tip of the spear making decisions about when people should come back to work, where they should go to work, when we should close, when we should open, how many people do you allow, uh, how creative can we get yeah, and serving our members. But the problem is, as a financial institution, if you need money, you either have to go to the ATM or come in the building,
Yeah.
right? So I
uh,
can't you can come to the drive-through. We do that too, but
uh, I can't mail you money.
yeah, I mean, we had to send notaries to park in a car next to you when you were closing on a home.
Mm-hmm.
And you would
Yeah.
sign paperwork and you'd pass it through the window to them, and they were in their car and they would notarize that page and they'd pass it back through the window to you. I mean,
Yeah.
it was like,
Yeah, the
how
mobile
creative can we
notary
get?
business. That was one probably a lot of people didn't even know existed before all this.
Oh yeah, mobile notaries suddenly got known, and if they weren't a mobile notary and they were just a notary, they became a mobile notary. So, there's that.
So one of the things we asked was, what became your biggest priority after it hit, and the largest response was in relation to allowing that flexibility that we kind of spoke about previously. And I know that in previous conversations that we've had, you've talked about you had to do the same thing, and I wondered if you might share some of the ways in which you were successful in providing that.
David, I'm really proud of the organization I work with. I just am, because we listened and we really let our employees tell us, what do you need? Tell me what you need. Long before, the Fed said, hey, people can have this many hours and they can do all this stuff. We had just entered into, I mean, I'm talking in early February, we went out to our employees and we said, we got 80 hours available to anybody who needs it. Just tell us what you need. And there were many employees who said, you know what, I just need to shift my hours from 9 to 6. Can I do that instead of 8 to 5? Because then I can get my kids launched. Or can I work a split shift? Or can I make up some hours on a Saturday or a Sunday? Or can I? And our answer was yes. And the commitment we as an executive team had, and the commitment we in human resources had, was we will do anything we need to do to get to yes. And how do we get to yes? And that was our mantra, is how do we get to yes? But it was a lot of asking and listening and creating individual and unique scenarios for people of what will it take for you to feel whole? What will it take for you to be able to do both and to do them both well?
I like
So
that. How do we get to yes?
yeah,
That's a good mantra.
and we've had to remind our managers, because as this has gone on and as things have changed, and we people are getting a little bit too comfortable with the environment right now, even though the spikes are coming back, right? Managers were starting to say, so Rhonda, when can I invite them back? It's like,
Hmm.
well, what do they need? Well, they still need to stay at home. Like, oh,
Yeah.
so find out from them when it's going to work for them to come back. What do they need? Is it when their child goes back to school? Is it when there's a vaccine? For some people, if they're health compromised, they may not be able to come back until there is a safe, reliable vaccine that's available and they can actually get in line and get it, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a matter of, we've just had a lot of conversations, and we've listened.
You mentioned there the vaccine, and let's kind of pretend for a moment. Let's say that this happens January. Do you think that flexibility it remains, or when this is over, or do expectations from employers sort of snap back to the way things were?
Well, I can't speak for anyone else but us. And for us, we're not going to snap back to the way things were. In fact, we are really striving to avoid using the phrase "when we come back." We're trying to eliminate that phrase as an executive team. Our goal is to eliminate that phrase from our language. So instead, we talk about, and when we transition to our next normal, whatever that is. And so that's the language we are purposely trying to use, not because it's just words, but words have meaning.
Mm.
And I don't think we are the same people today that we were on February the 7th when we started sending people home. So how can I ask people to go back and to become that person they were? Because they're not. So we truly believe that the next chapter of UFCU will not be the same chapter. But we're not picking up where we left off. That is never happening. What will it be? We're working on that right now. And we have a group of our senior leaders who are co-creating that with us in partnership. So it's not something that HR is deciding. It's not something the executives are deciding, but the senior leadership team cross-functionally is coming together to create, what does our next normal look like? Are we going to require people to come back in the office 5 days a week, every week? I don't think so. Are we going to allow them to work from home 100% of the time? I don't think so. But somewhere between those two extremes, we're going to find our medium. We had a one-day, where we were prior to COVID, we had employees work from home 1 day a week. They had that option if it worked for them. So we'll probably come above 1 day a week. We'll come below 5 days a week, but where will it actually land? That's what we're working on. And how do we bring everyone back? It's not going to be, okay, guys, on April the 1st, all, the 73% of you that are working from home, come on back. That's not going to be it either. We're looking at physical space. Do we go to hoteling? What do we do?
Yeah. Okay.
Did that answer the question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's going to be interesting. It just depends on what you do in some ways, so like my job, I don't necessarily need to be in an office, so
Right.
I don't know as I'll ever go back, and it's going to be interesting to see what that's like, because I think when this all started, I certainly had this idea of like, well, this will go on for a little while, maybe a month or two, and then you'll end up back, and then that never happens. And so it'll be, yeah, just interesting to see how culture changes as well.
So David, I have to say though, a lot of it depends on the culture of the organization in which you work. And so we just did our employee engagement survey recently. We did it in August, middle of a pandemic. By the way, there was a little bit of tension around race, a lot of racial tension, social tension, and there's a bit of a, very emotional presidential election going on at the same time. And while we always score high in Gallup's survey, we scored in the top 2% of all of Gallup's database.
Wow.
In our number of engaged employees. And we typically score in the top 2 to 4%, but we truly didn't think we were going to be in the top 2% this year. And there were a number of questions where we were in the top 1% of Gallup's database.
Wow.
And those are the things that tell us that all the work we've done throughout COVID, and Gallup was recommending really like, guys, don't do a survey right now. Let's wait a bit. And we said, no, we always do it in August. We're going to do it in August. And we want our employees to tell us how we're doing. I say all that because the culture of your organization is going to drive what your next normal becomes. And for us, we're a relationship-based culture. We are very people-focused. It's so hard to get our people not to walk up and hug each other every day. We're like, please, right? For the love of God, do not hug your colleague right now.
This isn't the
I don't
time.
care if you both have masks on. Like, what? We like literally we have a hard time getting our people not to walk up and hug each other in the morning when they come to work. Like, would you please stop hugging her? So our culture would not do well, and probably we would see a change if we stayed 72 or 73% of us working remotely 100% of the time in a year or 2 years. And what's important to us is that we maintain our current culture. We always want to have that people first, people walking and hugging each other when they come to work, because that culture is present in the way we treat our members. And for those for our members that come into our credit union, they experience that culture because our employees love to be at work and they love what they do. So our fear is if we don't do something that keeps the culture intact, it will shift. And we're looking to actually maintain the culture while we also remain flexible. So for us, that's our two-pronged challenge. It's a both and.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
much longer answer than you ever needed, but
No, it's all right. I like a long answer.
you can always cut.
Yeah. Now you mentioned there, there's been plenty of stress, as if a pandemic wasn't enough. We've had the racial tensions, we've had the election, we've had, depending on where you live, there's been fires and storms and everything else that you can possibly imagine. And so we've seen mental health and well-being become this big priority, and that was reflected in the survey as well. And actually, we've heard that echoed across the world, really. When we did our APAC event, it was a big topic of conversation. So I'm kind of wondering, how were you able to address issues around mental health, and what is sort of the next step for companies and leaders as they prioritize this well-being aspect of the employer-employee relationship?
Yeah, so mental health for us has been something we've focused on for a long time at UFCU. So it's not a new topic for us. I think the approaches we are taking is new, in the sense that we have signed up and have been a pilot project in a new offering that is coming that I'm still not at liberty to tell you what it is, but I can't wait till I am. And which showed us it was something we piloted in our contact center, our call center, and it demonstrated to us how tangible mental health can be impacted in short increments, in a positive way, how positively it can be impacted. And we are continuing now to pilot it with a couple of other areas. But probably the most impactful thing we've done is by making it easier for employees to access mental health services via Zoom or via, virtually. That before, while we offered it, it wasn't something that our employees utilized that often. They still, if they went for mental health services, they were going into an office. But when we made it as easy as an app on your phone and you can click on it and there's no copay, and you can immediately or within 20 minutes be speaking to a mental health professional, that was a game changer for us. It was absolutely a game changer for us. I wish my EAP was that easy, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then we also got creative, and I think I mentioned this the last time we got together as a the advisory board, is we engaged in chaplain services. We're not a religious organization, but there were people who were our employees were just empty. There's no other word to describe it. They just felt empty. And so by engaging with 2 different chaplain services, we make it available the same way we would an executive coach. And basically it's Here's their contact information, call them, use as many sessions as you want. And at the end of the month, the chaplain just bills us and they give us initials and they just say, I did 5 sessions with, RN. And I did 4 sessions with RH, so they just tell us not who they worked with, but just basically they justify that they did the work. And that to us, it's been very well received by our employees. Above and beyond, we do phone calls where we have 3 people, one of them being our CEO, who spend time every day making on average between 8 and 25 phone calls a day, every day, 5 days a week. Another thing, and that's just like, hey, David, how's it going? How are you? How are you doing? I don't want to talk about your work. How are you? How is that lovely dog sleeping on the bed behind you? Have you been out for a walk today, David? What are you struggling with? What are you concerned about? What can I do right now to make your life better? Is there anything we're not providing you that would be helpful? So it's kind of like in healthcare, you heard a lot about rounding. So we're in essence doing rounding, but we're doing it via the phone. And we're doing, like I said, we have 3 people dedicated. Each one kind of has their own sector of the day. We have one person dedicated to calling our mid-level managers, kind of that squish and the Oreo, right? They get all the pressure from above and then they got to make sure that it goes all the way through. We have one person focused on our new employees. She checks in with them on a regular basis. Anybody who's been hired since COVID started is, how are you? Are you adjusting? Do you feel connected? Do you feel alone? What can we do? Who can I connect you with? Oh, you have a dog? I'm going to connect you with this person who has the same kind of dog that you have. Oh, you like Chinese food? I'm going to connect you with this person who's going to talk to you. Like she's the connector. And then our CEO, we feed him a list of names. Like, would you call this person? They've really been a heavy lifter, or they have been high in production, or their production's really low. And we want you just to check on their well-being. We don't want them to be scared about their job, right? So those have been so impactful. And then I think I also mentioned we do something we call Dinner on Us. So when we do hear about those people that are just struggling, they've either talked to their manager or they've talked to somebody in HR, and they're just at their wits' end, and they feel like they can't be a successful parent or a successful employee or whatever's going on. We send them, in essence, Grubhub or some other gift card for enough for a family-sized meal, like, $100 for a family-sized meal to be delivered to them. And we say, dinner's on us. And we basically just say, look, we know you're juggling a lot of things and you're trying to be a lot of things to a lot of people. And tonight, take off your chef hat and just be you. Like, take one pressure away and just be you. And it's our way of saying, look, we hear you. We hear you. And that has been so well received.
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
Yeah. Dinner on us.
Hey, you can always take me out to dinner. I'm never going to say no to a meal. So.
Even if it's being delivered to your door. Right?
Exactly. So, we've heard a lot about reskilling and upskilling and changing business priorities, implementing technology, and meeting changing employee expectations. There's been a lot going on.
Yeah.
And as we go forward, all this stuff kind of continues. But from your perspective, as you look ahead, what do you think will have the biggest impact for HR in 2021? And hopefully it's not as crazy of a year.
I think the biggest impact for HR in 2021 is going to be helping people adjust and doing that change management for the next normal, whatever that is. It was a big change for people to go home. It's going to be a big change for people that come into an office every day. It's going to be a big change for people who are used to everyone being there, but now only half of them are there. Or everyone being there, but now only 25% are there. Or David used to be there all the time, but now David only comes in on Mondays. That learning to work in even another hybrid model, I think is going to be the big change for HR. It's going to be our big challenge, I guarantee you. And again, it's because we want everyone to be successful in whatever that next phase is.
All right.